Our next guest was the winner of the biggest upset victory in last night's elections. Andrew Gillum, who had been consistently polling in third place, won Florida's Democratic primary for governor. Andrew Gillum is the mayor of Tallahassee, and he is now Florida's first African-American nominee for governor in a major party. He is also now running against the Trump-endorsed Republican candidate, Congressman Ron DeSantis, who won the Republican nomination last night. Today, Ron DeSantis said this about his opponent, Mayor Andrew Gillum.
He is an articulate spokesman for those far left views, and he's a charismatic candidate. And, I watched those Democrat debates. None of that was my cup of tea. But, he performed better than the other people there. So we've got to work hard to make sure that we continue Florida going in a good direction. Let's build off the success we've had on Governor Scott. The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state.
Joining us now, Mayor Andrew Gillum, Democratic nominee for governor of Florida. Mayor, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Lawrence. I hope you're well.
I am, and I wanted to get your reaction to what we just heard Congressman DeSantis say about you.
Well, I tell you, the congressman clearly plans on campaigning out of the Trump manual. But I think he's going to have a real big surprise on November 6th. I think people in this state are so sick of those kinds of politics of division, racialized politics, which I think, Trump tried to capitalize on in his election. I think people have learned their lesson. And in this state, we're going to send them a message on November 6th when they elect me governor of the state of Florida, coincidentally, the first black governor of this state.
Were you personally offended by those comments? And are those comments an example of his racialized politics?
Well, I tell you, I try not to take too much of what these folks say seriously when they caricature themselves. They're an embarrassment to themselves. I think that DeSantis can be better than this. I know that our state is better than this. And I think it's just left to the voters to make sure that we send a very clear and convincing message that racialized politics and politics of division are not who we are. Truth be told, it's not even what the voters want to talk about. They want to know how they're going to get access to good, affordable health care, a job that pays them a wage that allows them to live on and maybe take a vacation once a year, an education system that can educate their kids and pay teachers what they're worth for doing the most difficult job that exists on earth, which is the shaping, the molding, and the cultivating of the minds of our kids. This stuff is simply off the rocker. But I guess when you don't have anything positive to put out there and you don't have a vision for the future of this state, you would result to Trumpian politics.
Now, everyone's noticed that Bernie Sanders endorsed your candidacy, and you were grateful to him for that. But you endorsed Hillary Clinton for president in the 2016 campaign. And so it seems in your own experience, you personally have bridged what are the two most clearly identifiable camps in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, that's exactly how we look at it. And I'll tell you today, Lawrence, I had a great conversation this morning with Senator Sanders. I got a call this morning also from Secretary Clinton. We had a great conversation as well. I think what our campaign demonstrated is that we have the ability to pull, should you believe that it exists, the Bernie Sanders wing as well as the Hillary Clinton wing of the Democratic Party together. And the truth is that we're going to need all of the constituencies of our party to win back this state this November. In fact, I even want to bring over those Republicans who feel duped by this president, who frankly wanted to see their lives improved, their job conditions improved, their health conditions improved. And all we've gotten under this president is our charades and shows and insults. We're tired of it. We want a government and a governor who's going to be responsive to the needs of everyday working people. And that's why I believe we're going to prevail on November 6th.
You say you'd like to reach over to Republican voters who are turned off by the Trump administration. If you're trying to appeal to Republican voters in Florida, you're out there on the campaign trail, and a Republican voter says to you, you're a nice man, or whatever they want to say about you personally, but they say, I'm worried because you're a socialist, the DeSantis message that you are a socialist. How would you respond to a Republican voter who's worried about you as a socialist?
Yeah, well, first of all, I tell them I'm a Democrat, have been one so long as I've been registered to vote. And then I'll reflect on them and I'll say, listen, if you're working multiple jobs in order to make ends meet, you can't be satisfied with the way things are going in this state. And right now in Florida, 44% of people in this state, nearly half the population, say that they can't make ends meet at the end of the month. If you're worried about your kids being tested to death due to high stakes tests, which don't tell us what they know, but how well they take a test, you're probably frustrated too. If you live in the southwestern corner of this state where we've got algae blooms flowing out of the east and the west side of guacamole content, then you can't be happy with the environmental regulation undertaken under this Republican leadership these last 20 years. You've got to be frustrated by that. So I would simply say, vote your own interests, vote your own conscience, vote your own household. And if you vote that way, I have no doubt that you'll choose me over Congressman DeSantis in the race for governor.
Congressman DeSantis says you want to get into office so that you can raise taxes in Florida.
Yeah, well, Congressman DeSantis is wrong on this account. I don't want to raise taxes on everyday Floridians. What we have said is that everybody ought to pay their fair share. In the state of Florida, the corporate tax rate is lower than that of the states of Alabama and Georgia. We're the third largest state in America. And by being a cheap date, we've cheapened and been a back of the pack state almost on everything that matters. What I want people to understand is that good corporations, good companies, good businesses, good people don't locate to states where your education system is 40th out of 40th, where your mental health funding is 50th out of 50th, where your environment is being so harmed that you can't even go into the ocean, that you've got to be conscious about the air that you breathe or the water that you drink. That impacts people's quality of life. And so if we're serious about creating a state that is desired by everybody, which I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't want to choose Florida, we've got to make our state the kind of state that's deserving of the talent of our children, but it requires a governor who's interested in doing the right things, taking the right steps, and making sure that everybody pays their fair share. Corporations have to pay their fair share, too, in this state, which is why I advocate for a corporate tax rate increase. Florida
is the scene of two of the worst mass murders in recent American history, the most recent one being Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Your first appearance on this program was in reaction to that shooting. As a candidate for governor now, what policies do you believe Florida needs to enact as a result of that shooting?
Well, you're right. And in fact, we just had a shooting incident, in fact, two that took place in Duval County, Jacksonville, Florida, one at the Landing, and before that, a high school football game. We know that gun violence ravages not only our communities when it comes to mass shooting incidences, but there are communities that have to deal with this issue on a daily basis. And what we simply said is that we ought to instruct and enforce common sense gun laws. If you want to own the power of God at your waist belt, you at least ought to have a background check. I believe that if you want to shoot a gun that can fire off 60 bullets in 60 seconds, you ought to join the military. That those guns have no place on our city streets. And I think that there are people who are common and decent in this state who really do want to see us take some very common sense and logical steps. And we just refuse to do it. Lawrence, I think I shared with you before. I mean, I was literally sued, drugged through court for 2 years by the NRA and the gun lobby, all because in my city we refused to repeal an ordinance which said you couldn't shoot guns in city parks. I mean, how ridiculous is that notion? We've got to return to some sense of common and decency and safety and security for all people. And right now, the NRA has run roughshod over this state, and we've got to bring it back to a more common and decent place.
Mayor Andrew Gillum, thank you very much for joining us once again, and please come back and join us during the campaign. We'd like to hear more.
Indeed. Thanks for having me, Lawrence. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.